All right, so let's start with this Bester story and look at some of the key moments in his timeline. Now, in August 2012, Bester was sentenced to life in prison for murder and rape, and he killed model and car saleswoman Nomfundo Tyhulu. In May last year, news broke that he had died in prison, but last month, news agency Ground Up revealed that, in fact, this was false. Pictures of the convicted murderer also went viral on social media. Now, after much frenzy, the Correctional Services Department confirmed that, in fact, the body found in Bester's cell wasn't his. Then arrest warrants were then issued for the two, that is Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha Makudumana. Now, several events happened after that, including the raid at the last known address in Hyde Park, which is believed to be one of their hideout spots. And at the weekend, police broke the news that the pair were arrested in Tanzania with a third person, a Mozambican national. Now, while efforts are being made to bring them back home, G4S, which is the company that runs the Marangawung Correctional Center, is expected to appear in Parliament tomorrow, and the Correctional Services Department at this particular moment has taken over the running of the prison. We stay with this particular issue and look at what it takes, to track down a fugitive. What goes into this particular operation? Let's speak to Specialist Investigator Mike Bolhuis, who joins us live now. Mike, thank you so much for your time. There must have been several scenarios at play here when work started to try and track them down. Briefly tell us what goes into tracking down a fugitive.
Well, first of all, I must thank the media, because the media played a massive role here. Since day one, everybody, it was on everybody's lips, it was written everywhere, and it was sent out daily, the newest and the latest. And that made a very serious impact in this investigation, so much so that they had nothing else to do but as to flee the country, which was their biggest mistake and which got them caught. Secondly, because of the media outcry, the police, with egg on their face, obviously, and all the authorities involved, decided to put the top-notch police units to it, and they made a difference. The police in this case, the several police units made a massive difference as well. And then obviously ourselves and other safety and security organizations all got involved. We are specialist investigators. We assisted since day one. And then track and tracing is one of the main things that you would concentrate on, as well as what the police were doing, following up leads, as well as information that was received from the media and from everybody that has heard about this case, giving information through to these three departments which work together closely in order to get Thabo and Nandipha caught. So the government, actually, the police, the safety and security institutions and the public and the media worked together, and they all get praise, in my opinion, for this success.
And do we know if Kenya was, in fact, going to be the destination, because they were caught en route there, or were they always going to keep on moving on?
The pressure was so severe, and they were fleeing for two reasons. One, there are many people after them. They have done many people in. They owe a lot of people money. There are a lot of people that are extremely upset with them. Then, I am sure there's quite a few policemen and people in GS4, as well as inmates, as well as their connections, and as well as those who were involved with this whole escape, that is also after them and would rather see him dead. So I was quite sure that they were fleeing on a regular and constant basis. So they would move from country to country. South Africa became too hot for them. They left and they were moving along. The next destination would have been Kenya, but not the final destination. I think in their minds, they knew at some stage they would be caught.
And talking about, this particular escape, I'm going to come back to it in just a moment. I want to latch on to something you've just said. A number of people are looking for them. So how worried are you about their safety, that they will be kept alive to be able to finish and get to the end of this particular chapter?
Well, I'm extremely concerned about their safety, and we deal with the authorities, and we've said it in the media constantly that one of the main tasks the police now has, the authorities involved, is to make sure that they are both obviously kept separate, and that they are both trying to get all the information, getting them to give their full cooperation, but in the same time promise and keep them alive. Because we obviously have extreme corruption in our country for years, and it's escalating. It's not going down. And it has happened before. We've seen it many a times, how whistleblowers and people that with too much information that can expose so many in the authorities. Because remember, there are people high up here which is going to be named. There are people going to be named in the police. There are people that's going to be named in the DCS and GS4. There are people that's going to be named all along, family members, friends. And these people would, as I've said, rather see him dead. They would have rather had him gone and never been caught. And therefore, both their lives is in extreme danger, in my opinion. But I'm sure the authorities will look after them and make sure that they are safe.
So certainly, listening to you, then this list is likely to be, quite a long one. Let's then talk about the prison system itself, because right now, this particular story has brought this particular system back again in the spotlight. We've seen quite a lot of talk around how possibly rotten things are inside, and we've also seen investigations that are taking place. Do you think that officials are doing enough of walkabouts in these particular facilities to check exactly what's going on?
No, they don't. But this is the advantage, once again, of you guys, the media. You have made this case a debacle. It's now egg on the face of our country. It's a worldwide case. It's a unique escape. It's a brilliant crime. It is absolutely astronomical. And this would force our authorities, and we have begged that they would, in all departments, any safety and security related departments would step up and root up and rule out all forms of corruption. And one of them, if not the biggest, is the prison system. You cannot get anything done in prison unless you pay a guard. I have first-hand information. We've done investigations in prisons for years. It is rotten to the core. It's unhygienic. It is corrupt, much worse than the other institutions, because the people in there are just seen as merchandise. And if you don't pay your 10 or 20 rand, you won't get food, and you won't get your blanket, and you won't get looked after. And it's been going on for a long time. And that's why the hardened criminals with money will plan to try and escape. And if you've got money and connections, you can escape.
And very briefly then, finally, let's then look at the two of them right now, because I know there's a third person involved, but just the two of them for interest's sake, that they planned this, as you say, a brilliant, escape. And we see quite a lot of people at play here. When you and various others were looking into what could have happened here, who are the persons of interest and staff, did they really get excited about this? Would they have been excited about planning such an elaborate escape that would have put them in the news? Let's try to look briefly at what was going on through their minds.
Well, there is a form of arrogance here, yes. And as I've said, with a lot of money, with a lot of help, with a lot of connections, you can pay your way out, and you can commit crime in South Africa, and you can, because you can get away with it. And remember, crime begets crime. Once a crime or a small crime works, you will, if you're a criminal, you'll go to bigger crime because it works and it pays. Crime pays. So this was an elaborate, lengthy planning. There's a lot of inmates that were involved. There were a lot of guards involved. G4S was involved. Policemen were involved. There were a lot of friends and some family members from the outside involved. There were three John Doe bodies acquired. I mean, they're also going to be standing before a judge on a case of, what do you call it when you mess with a body?
Tampering with a dead body. Tampering with a corpse.
Tampering with a dead body. It's a serious case. I mean, if you look at this case in its totality, all this planning to get a dead body in and then stage a suicide and then get away with it for so long, it shows you that the authorities was corrupt and involved in here because they suppressed all the information and the complaints that was there from the day one that he has escaped, he is alive, and he didn't commit suicide. It was suppressed up till recently, and then the media exposed everything, and everything burst wide open.
Mike, it sounds like a movie. You know, really, every installment of this is just so difficult to comprehend. But let me thank you for your time. Let's see then what happens with the next installments, and hope we get to speak again. That is Special Investigator Mike Bolhuis.